Okay, let's start off a bit differently. Let's try this very simple qigong. So breathing in and breathing out. Marking the breathing with the arms. And just try and let the legs soften. So as you bring the arms up, you're pushing against the air, and if you let it, that will drive you down into the legs. And then as you bring the hands down, you're pushing your body upwards. So this is soft legs, legs that can yield. And now tipping to the side. So just feel the two hands. So one hand slips down its leg and the other hand rises up. Right. Now just make it a little bit wider. Now let's try the breathing. So the belly and the heart combined, pulling the belly right in. So up, sort of leaning forwards. And then relax that. And then expand the chest by leaning back a little bit. And then relax that. So the belly tightening to pull it in. And then that relaxes. And then the lower back tightens to lean you back. And then that relaxes. Good. Now just a little bit wider. And now just imagine you're holding a big tray and you're turning to offer these little sandwiches or whatever that's on your tray. So you're like a waiter. What we want to feel is that the more we offer out and up, the more the other end of our spine is driven downwards through our legs. Then back to the front. And now just turning the hands over. So now it's like the hands are listening to the ground, like the two metal detectors. And we turn again. It's real feeling that you have to sink down into your legs to get as close to the ground as possible so that you can scan it. And just feel what this does to the posture. So you'll tend to lean forwards a little, but it will also bring you out of your root. There's this sort of paradox that the more attention we pay to the ground, the more we actually come out of the root, and the more attention we pay to the out and the up, the more we are driven into the root, as long as we're not moving around too much. And then into riding horse. So let gravity have your sacrum. This is being pulled down, but also a little bit forwards. And that will drive you down through the heels and root you. And this has no choice then but to lift upwards. So manners tree. And then coming forwards onto the front of the foot, so lifting the heels. So the knees rise up, the heels come off the ground, and the lower back sort of relaxes, or it sort of gathers intensity, and then the tail will stick out behind you rather than downwards when you're concentrating on the root. And the thymus feels like it's rearing upwards and wanting to burst forth. And then rocking back one heel at a time. The heel goes down, it's sucked into the ground. This heel goes down and it's sucked into the ground. And now let's try the two circle exercise, which naturally comes out of that. So the arm is reaching around someone and then bringing them in. So this chest bit beneath the collarbone softens to reach out, but it remains soft as I turn to bring the person in. Turning away from the arm to reach outwards, and then turning towards it to bring it in. Feeling it, letting yourself feel, especially this bit beneath the collarbone. So as you reach out, feel the shoulder blade reaching down the arm. It's like it releases from the back a little bit. And then try and get the same feeling in the leg. As I reach out with my arm, effectively my leg is reaching out. So as the shoulder blade comes away, my feeling that my hip is pulling away from my sacrum. So the sacroiliac almost swells apart. And then feel that straight leg bending in order to pull you back round. So the heel comes up, which means the other heel has to be really firmly planted. So this heel must really be in the ground for this heel to be able to come up. Right. This area beneath the collarbone remains soft as I turn and yield, but similarly this point in the groin remains soft as I slowly bring my weight into the leg. And that will just force me to go into the outside edge of the foot. Because if I come into the inside, it will close off this point in the groin. again. Let's just bring it into riding horse again. So we have these two fundamental actions, the breathing, where an in-breath is followed by an out-breath. And then we've looked at that and seen how the extreme of the out-breath, when you relax that, it springs back into the in-breath. And the same with the in-breath, when that gets extreme, it bounces back out. So this is Taoism. It says if you want to move to the left, first move to the right. So it's like you move to the right and then bounce out of that, so that the movement that you want to do feels like it's happened because you've relaxed rather than tensed. So the tension is actually moving a little bit to the left into the spring. I push into the spring and then that bounds me out, and that's my main action. And that's everywhere. We're always sort of finding or even creating these elastic, rubbery skins that we can sink into in order to bound out. So that's the breathing. And then the other action is the walking, is because we split the body into two halves, left and right. And then we get each side breathing, but alternating with the other side. And that will produce this action of one side being able to step forwards, which is walking. So all the complicated actions that we have are basically variations on walking. Okay, let's come off the heels again. So bringing the heels up and sinking down into the legs. Feeling yourself getting fierce. So this is man as animal. And then rocking back onto the heels. So this heel sinks down, this heel sinks down. And now I'm with the earth. So now this is me as a tree or a plant. So much slower frequency, longer energy. And now let's just circuit. Again, it's breathing. Breathing in and breathing out. And then slowly just let them dissociate. So you're doing sort of the opposite thing with each arm. So now it's the walking. You see, each side of your body is doing what it was before, but so each side of your body is breathing, but out of phase with the other side. So that will move you from leg to leg, and it will also turn you. It's effectively the two circles, but on the vertical plane. And then bringing it into riding horse again. Okay, just let gravity have the sacrum. So which that means you just, oh, fuck. So it sort of pulls forwards and it just hurts a lot more in the legs. But without that, you can't really communicate upwards. Now let's just move from leg to leg. Let's try just concentrating on one of the legs. Let's try the left leg. So first of all, I sink into it in order to bounce out of it. So the leg bends, like sinking into the trampoline skin, and I feel the energy returned, and I let myself go with that. And now this leg straightens so that it can stretch its elastic, so that it can pull back. So the leg straightens and then it contracts, which is just a natural return. That's like the relaxation phase, sinking into the leg. Here I'm stressing it and I relax and it will bounce me out. And then here the leg really straightens and then I relax that and it will naturally curl up a bit. So it's the same as the breathing that we did, the belly and the heart breathe. Just straighten this leg and then just relax it and it will naturally. And to help it relax, you can just lift the heel because it's relaxing a leg is difficult because they're always supporting us, so they're afraid of relaxing. If I lift the heel, then the knee will naturally bend, and that will start it pulling back in. I sink into the heel, and I'm bounced out. And then I straighten the leg, lifting the heel, and I will pull back. I'm sinking into the leg, but there comes a point where my body's not really moving much. That's when I want to really try and notice the upward. And then I just go with that. Something in me has to relax in order to get the return. This is what we're looking at. So here I'm sinking, sinking, sinking. This is getting more and more tight. And something in me has to relax. I will naturally bounce back. And then let's try a little bit with the other leg. So sinking into this leg now, and then feeling the return. Ooh. And then really straightening the leg in order to stimulate its stretching, and then just relaxing that, and it will contract a little. And then let the weight sink into it. And springing out. Straighten this leg. And pull. Sinking into this leg and springing out. This leg straightens. And then pulls. And then just keep like half an eye on each leg. So as I sink into this leg in order to bounce out of it, this leg is straightening. So this leg, if anything, is pushing me more into this foot. So they both sort of help each other. They both got their sort of tension phase at the same time. So this is pushing me down into this leg. I bounce out, but at the same time, this leg starts pulling. So they're doing opposite things, but both doing the same action, really, which is a movement from one leg into the other. So I can either feel it as bouncing out of this leg or this leg pulling. And if I can get my mind such that both things are happening at the same time, then it's a bit like coming off your heels in riding horse. You get sort of shaky. I can dissociate the two sides of my body so that they can do opposite things. Then that produces that same sort of trembly system. Those are the sort of systems we're looking for all the time because they're full of life. So when everything is regimented and obeying the rules, there's no life, basically. So you need some sort of structure, but then you need to get to the point where spirit comes in and tries to disrupt that structure. You just feel the heels as you come into one heel. It allows the other one to come off the ground, and then you will naturally spring back. Okay, so let's bring it to riding horse. Again, I just got to, in my mind, I just have to be brave and let gravity have my sacrum. I'll always try and sort of look down and, a bit like scanning the ground with the metal detectors. But what that will do will pull me out of my legs. Get into my legs, I just have to be prepared to open up to this enormous firmament, which is frightening. So the more this is allowed to pull down and focus into like a point in the ground, the more this just opens up. And now let's bring the feet up and do some of this really feeling that alternation in the feet. One heel goes down, the other heel comes up. Feeling the twisting, feeling the figure of eight in the foot, and particularly feeling this sort of wriggling action in the tail. So spirit. The spirit means so many different things. But for us, it's more like spirit of vitality or like the elan vital. It's the spirit that brings things alive, makes things tremble and wakes things up. And that's what I'm trying to do is really just wake up the tail. A lot of what we're doing requires a tail that's sort of free to point and wiggle. So I have to get this really tough, shearing, single weighted, one side of the body doing one thing, one side of the body doing the other. Like you're tearing a piece of cloth endlessly. So it's work, it's not relaxed. And then just slightly wider, but the same thing. Feel the tail. It will tend to look for the heel that's going down. The tail is like a little worm. It's wanting to burrow into the ground all the time. It wants the darkness. So it's going down. And the more it goes down, the more this hand can reach up. Now just a little bit wider. But the same thing. So as you turn and come into the left foot, it's like the left heel is wanting to come off the ground so that you can literally propel yourself in that direction. And if anything, it's the back heel that's actually keeping you rooted. And now let's just jog, just to loosen it up and relax it. Good. And now let's just push into the wall. So I'm just leaning. I'm leaning onto the wall, but I start pacing with my feet in order to push into the wall. So my hands are having to push the wall in order to drive myself back into the legs. So I want to feel those two stresses gathering in the lower back and strengthening the lower back. And then round and leaning on the wall with your sacrum, really. So the upper back doesn't need to be on the wall. Again, just working the legs a little bit to try and rock the sacrum on the wall. So all the time we're thinking about like pulling the sacroiliacs open a little bit. And then back up. And now let's squat. And that the sacrum and the sacroiliacs really swell. And now let's extend the leg. I'm just trying to get it as straight as possible. And then the other side. And the other side again. And then the other side. And then back into the squat. Then up. And just a few of these before we pick a foot off the ground. And now picking a foot up by letting the body lean. I lean this way. Just want to make, just lean enough so that it's the leaning that brings the foot up. So really just trying to get into the outside edge. Think of the hand dropping down. Try and get in the ground. Once you get onto it, just try and relax the sacrum. And now just bringing the knee up a little bit with the hand. A couple more. Okay, and now stepping. Just sinking down into the leg, outside edge. And then extending this foot out. What we want to do is just really make an effort to extend the leg. I'll sink into this one. And I extend the leg, but then I have to really reach, which means I have to sink a bit more in the supporting leg. So it's difficult. Relax down the leg. Extend out. Almost like something in the joint stretches. And then it can just get a little tiny bit further than it would otherwise. And that stretch in the joint, that's something that has to happen in the mind as well. So I sink into this leg, I reach out, and then something in me has to really extend. Sink out, and then sink even more. Have to be careful with this because it does stress the knees. Sink. Right. Now let's finish. So, riding horse. Get the feet in position and then prepare yourself for this dropping. We're just so asleep nowadays that to actually get this in the right position, which forces you to wake up in a way, is just difficult, painful. So spirit is the energy of danger. It rises when danger is in the air. They're the same thing, really, spirit and danger. So this is why the spirit is always with the underdog, because their lives are always dangerous, because they're in the oppressed minority. So in the sort of, the sort of settled majority, there's no spirit to be found. So in the body, it's the little fingers, little toes, the tail, all these vestigial parts that really express spirit. Okay, let's bring the feet up. and not straightening the legs. You're trying to give the appearance that they're straight, but you know that you're still very much connected to the ground through your extending tail, and that your legs are hurting, so the chances are you're sinking. Okay, and then just somehow winding it down.